Turnout in Georgia, as we mentioned, has hit record highs for a runoff election, despite what activists say has been an uphill battle. They've seen polling sites close, objected to hundreds of thousands of people being purged from the voting rolls, and faced lawsuits aimed at discounting absentee ballots before they've been counted. Let's discuss all this with three people who are very familiar with these fights. Joining us now is Georgia State Representative NGUYEN. Her district is in Atlanta. Also with us are Oscar-nominated filmmakers Liz Garbus and Lisa Cortez. They're co-directors of the film All In, The Fight for Democracy. It examines the history of voter suppression. Good to have the three of you with us tonight. Representative NGUYEN, let me start with you. Talk about what you've seen in terms of voter suppression tactics, particularly if you've seen anything that is blatantly, obviously, effortlessly determinable as voter suppression. I think depending on who you ask, one person's voter suppression might be another person's voter protection. Have you seen anything that is so blatant that it could not be anything but voter suppression?
Look, I mean, Georgia has a history of voter suppression. We've seen that under the rule of Brian Kemp, who was our Secretary of State before Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. So this is not new to any of us who live in this state. And as organizers in the state of Georgia, as elected officials in the state of Georgia, we know it's always been an uphill battle to make sure every vote is counted. Just recently, Secretary of State Raffensperger sent out a memo threatening people to charge them with a felony if they are out line warming. That means giving food, umbrellas, water to voters who are waiting in line. And we have seen polling locations close, polling locations that were open during the general election and closed for the runoff elections. That, of course, will lead to long lines. For example, in Cobb County, who closed half of their early polling locations that were open in the general election, had lines yesterday up to 4 hours. And here we are having a Secretary of State, instead of focusing on making sure every voter can vote and can vote with confidence and safety, he is now issuing a memo that potentially puts people in a position where they feel like they cannot support voters in line. That is voter suppression, and we continue to see it with a messaging from Georgia Republicans, from the Secretary of State, who are threatening to introduce legislation to do things like make it harder to vote mail-in ballot without having any kind of evidence of voter fraud. So that has been the trend in the state of Georgia. It is voter intimidation, voter suppression, and anything that they can do to make sure that voters in the state of Georgia cannot cast their ballots easily.
Liz, were there any particular stories, maybe one in particular that stands out to you from voters in their experiences with voter suppression?
Well, what Lisa Cortez and I did in the film All In, The Fight for Democracy, along with a producer of our film who you might have heard of, Stacey Abrams, we documented the long history of voter suppression and, and looked at the election in Georgia of 2018 in the context of that history. And since the election, the gubernatorial race in 2018, Fair Fight and activists in Georgia have done extraordinary work using the courts and using grassroots activism to turn the tide, because as Stacey Abrams says, voter turnout is the best antidote to voter suppression. So people are waiting on lines, people are seeing their local polling places closed, but they're turning out. And that's what's so encouraging about what's happening right now, especially in the 18 to 29-year-old group.
So, Lisa, with regards to people who are still turning out regardless of what may be done to try to prevent them from voting, what do you hear on the flip side of that in terms of mobilizing voters, maybe getting over people's concerns, misgivings, cynicism over whether or not they'll be able to vote, whether their votes will count? Lisa, what have you heard in terms of what's being done to convince people to stay involved in the process?
Well, there is such tremendous messaging that happened during the general election of finding out if you're registered, knowing where your polling location is. It became like a mantra. And I think that has been a very effective tool by all of the organizations on the ground in Georgia, ensuring that people know that this is an important right, this is an important election, and all of the things that you did in the general election, you need to do again. You get in line, you stay in line. And I think, we have a great tradition of Black folks organizing in the South for the right to vote. And all of those years by organizations on the ground and the historical precedents are kind of coming together in this moment.
State Representative NGUYEN, you took it upon yourself to knock down this claim that came up during the election that thousands and thousands of fraudulent votes were cast by getting on the phone and calling some voters up yourself. What did you learn from that? What did that show you?
First of all, I mean, the list that's been put together by the Trump campaign and his attorneys is clearly faulty. The names on the list are thousands of Georgians who live in this state who have cast a legal ballot, and they made no efforts to contact these voters to ensure that they use any kind of unique identifier to make sure that it is not an instance of double voting. It is not an instance of a person who has moved away from the state of Georgia. I use the tools that were at my disposal, which is the same tools that those attorneys have to ensure that we are not accusing Georgians of committing a felony. Not contacting the voters does not sit well with me. If you are going to accuse somebody of committing a felony and of attaching their name to a public filing, the very least you can do is do the due diligence and contact the voters in the state of Georgia. I drove to one of my constituents' house who's appeared on this list, and she was alleged to have voted in the state of Georgia and the state of Virginia. She is an older Black voter, and when I told her that her name was on this lawsuit, she had no idea that her name was on this lawsuit. She has never even visited the state of Virginia. She's owned her home here in Georgia for 30 years. And she and her husband have a lengthy voting record here in the state of Georgia. And so they continue to not only undermine democracy, but to throw Georgians under the bus, Georgians who earn their right to vote, Georgians who have no idea that they are being accused of committing a crime.
Liz, I'd love to get your reaction to something that we heard from the Reverend RAPHAEL Warnock, who is the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. He is one of the Democrats who is in the runoff that will take place on Tuesday. He was on earlier today on The Cross Connection with my colleague Tiffany Cross. Here's part of what he said that I'd like to get your reaction to.
I know a little bit about voter suppression. I have worked to register hundreds of thousands of new voters in this state. I've taken on for years the ways in which we've seen these kinds of tactics intended to diminish certain parts of the electorate. And the way to respond to this is to show up. And so I can't stress that enough. We need folks to show up on Tuesday.
Liz, before we have to go, he says that the response is for people to show up. I wonder how much, from your perspective, you see the counter argument that Georgia is Georgia. This is the way it's been. This is the way it's going to be. You can show up however you want. But those, insert term here, are never going to let people who don't look like them or think like them rise politically in any way without a knockdown, drag out through the mud fight. You can show up if you want to, but good luck going home without both your knees getting skinned and your lip getting busted. What do you say to them?
Well, yeah, sure. That's the history, right? We have the examples of white violence against Black voters all through our history. But the incredible work that has been done over the past 10 years with the New Georgia Project and then with Fair Fight, Black Voters Matter, and many other organizations, often led by Black women, going door to door and letting people know that they have a stake in the system and that they have something to vote for. I think that's what Stacey Abrams' race gave Georgian voters, a feeling of connection and a feeling of something that they can vote for. And that's why we're seeing 80,000 voters who didn't even vote in the November election coming out to vote in this election. They have reached those folks, and it's a beautiful moment of democracy in action when people are participating like that and feel they have a voice that can be counted and heard. So yes, the forces have been against us and them for years and years, but by people showing up and waiting, they are, doing the most patriotic thing I think an American can do.
Georgia State Representative Bean Wynn and Liz Garbus and Lisa Cortez, the co-directors of the film All In, The Fight for Democracy. I appreciate the three of you making time for us tonight. Thank you all very much.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.